Alright you guys, today in the studio we're going to be working to create a bunch of knickknacks, treasures, and little trinkets to go along with the Magical Beasts Niffler diorama base. Now if you're keeping up with the overall project, you'll see that we've already released the full-length content for the Niffler creation. And to create some of these gems, treasures, and knickknacks, we're going to be using a multitude of mediums to do so, because we want to incorporate as many treasures as we can. So today in this video, we're going to be using these molds to create some little gems out of 2-part epoxy, acrylic paint, as well as some alcohol inks. Now we're not going to include any kind of glitter or mica powder because we want those gems to be crystal clear. We will also be creating a pearl necklace as well that the Niffler will be holding. And that pearl necklace will be coming out of the pocket or the pouch that the little Niffler has, where he stows away all of his gems and treasures. Now just remember, in a separate video we're also going to be creating a Felix Felicis golden vial, which will be kind of dripping over the diorama base. We're also going to be at some point creating a stack of galleons and maybe some sickles and knuts along the way as well. But for now, let's go ahead and get this epoxy out, let's get some alcohol inks and some acrylics out, and let's have some fun.
All right, let's jump into this voiceover here. Now we have a few different things we're going to run through. First off, with these clay little roses. Now I had created these a long time ago and I've never really used them. I'm going to use these in a gold painting video here in the near future. I'm also going to be making a Felix Felicis vial there. It's going to have gold like liquid that's going to be coming out over the diorama base. And we also have a bunch of pearls here that we're going to be using to make a pearl necklace that the Niffler will be holding. We also have a multitude of different molds here. Now these are the pre-made like crystals and little necklace molds that I have already purchased and used before, and we're going to kind of make some just different kind of like jewelry shapes that may be introduced into the Niffler diorama, kind of like treasure base. We're going to start off by getting some things set up here. I've got my station nice and cleaned out, and we do have some button molds here. Now I will probably make a dedicated video on those button molds, like actually creating like two-sided buttons. We'll make some roses as well as a few of these little leaves here. Cute little molds here. Now just remember that they are different types of molds as far as consistency, so they do give you a little bit different finishes. Now, I'm not going to use all of these molds in the long run, but I am going to try to use some just to get some particular colors on the base. Now, some of these gems will be kind of buried in the dirt underneath the Niffler, so although they may not be fully visible and I may not have an actual ruby kind of shape, I'm going to use the crystal to kind of cut it in half and give us a nice, just kind of like red or green or blue kind of geode shape, just kind of like popping out of the dirt, just to kind of give it a little bit of color apart from just the browns and the greens of the flocking that we're going to add to the base. So what we're going to do is we're going to use just some cheap epoxy here, guys. We're going to be using just Amazing Clear Cast here, or Illuminlight. It's just very cheap, guys. I do have Flynn's Sister on hand, but I'm not going to use that to make these kind of like just cheap little trinkets that are going to be just literally buried in the dirt. I'm not trying to go for like a super shiny finish or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of just throw this epoxy in these molds, and then we're just going to kind of get some treasure created. I'm going to create about 30 milliliters in total, and then we'll be able to start pouring this. Let's go ahead and mix this up, and I'm not really worried about bubbles too much. If you are worried about bubbles, then you can just mix it very slowly and try to reduce the amount that you have there. So there we are, magic of editing there. We have a few extra medicine cups here. Now we have a few because we're going to make some different colors here. So I'm going to go ahead and evenly distribute this out here. Now we are going to be using metallics and golds for this project, and that's what we're going to kick off with in the first half of this video. We're going to base coat these with a gold tint. That way they just already have a base for us to build easy color on top of. Now you could make these clear, you could make them colored if you wanted to. You could even tint them with like a black or a white, but just remember that depending on the base color that you put into this mixture depends on the amount of layers you have to put on to get a really high gloss, high finish gold texture paint. And I'm going to make a video dedicated on how to create a great gold texture over different bases, and then we can kind of see what they give us as far as results. For these little button molds, they do have a lot of intricate details in them, so normally what I'll do is I'll just put a little dollop of epoxy in there. I'll use a little popsicle stick and I'll just kind of push that into all the nooks and crannies, just to kind of make sure all of those bubbles get pushed out to the surface, and then I'll finish filling it all the rest of the way there. Again, this portion of the video will make a return when I do go into a more in-depth version on how I paint these little buttons. So just be aware that that may be coming out over the next week or so, but it is a simplistic, fun video of us just creating some little cool buttons out of 2-part epoxy. Now, to be aware that you can also make this out of other mediums. For instance, you can make them out of clay or plaster, but you can, depending on what kind of scenario you're using them for, they may need a little bit more durability or different, different lightweight or heavyweight, and you can kind of get different textures and different finishes depending on the mediums that you pour into these molds. Looking pretty good here, you guys. Let's go ahead and make a few of these little perfect little leaves here. We're still going to use the same color until this is completely gone. And I just kind of like just diversifying up the overall shapes that we have here. Most of these will get coated in gold, so just be aware of that. And then some of them I actually just put into a drawer for a later use. That way I'm just not wasting this epoxy here. Now just be aware that although I may not use all of these in the actual diorama itself, I wanted these as options. In all reality, I probably won't use a ton of these in the diorama itself, but it's just fun and cool to create these out of the gold paint and things like that. Making sure to push that epoxy down into the stem of those leaves, that way it doesn't leave a void or an air gap there. And then I'll kind of gently just take drops at a time just to finish filling those up to the top. Sometimes I don't like to fill mine up all the way to the very, very top because I don't like the excess popping out of the bat. Sometimes I just want like a flat finish. So it just depends on the circumstances of what I'm using them for. We're going to pour that into some of these little rows of molds here. And this is probably one of the shapes that I'll be doing the gold comparison in. So for instance, I'll have one that is a base coated gold like we have here, and then I'll have one that's like a bleached out white, and then maybe I'll have one that's already ready in a black paint. We'll all paint them the same different ways, or maybe some different variations, and then you can just let me know in the comments which one you prefer or like the most. So we'll kind of experiment with that. I'm excited for that video. I've been wanting to make a gold painting video for quite a while, and I just have the opportunity and excuse to do that. So that's coming up here soon, and looking forward to that. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and go into a different size mold. These are like little necklace molds or little keychain molds. That we have two of them are like kind of like geo crystal shapes. One is just like a rectangle, and then one is more of an oval circular shape. We're going to use our very generic colors here. So we're going to be using, I believe it's Everglades. We're going to be using ultramarine blue or cobalt, as it were, ember for the red, and then sunshine yellow for the yellow. So it's a very vibrant colors, very basic and very primary colors. And we're going to give about 3 or 4 drops per unit here. And this is not a lot of epoxy. It's just enough to get by. And if I fill it all the way up as far as the mold and I have excess, then I'll just pour these into one of those existing molds just to make something, right? Here's the red there. I actually put quite a few red in there. I wanted that to be a very, very red ruby. And I'll probably come back later on down the road for the diorama, and I'll create quite a few more of the rubies and the emeralds. I really do think that those had great coloring, and I'll probably make another one here in the near future. The red just really pops well against the like kind of green rock base that we've already prepared for the diorama. So what we're going to do is here we're just going to mix each one up individually, really great, and then we're going to pour them into the individual molds that we have prepared here. You'll notice here that this is a very satisfying part of the video. I'm not really worried about the actual kind of like the necklace hole at the top of each individual unit. Again, these are going to be buried in the dirt in different angles, so you're only going to kind of see like little like tips and trinkets just popping out of the dirt, just subtle variations of what we have here. Here is a kind of a sapphire. I wanted this to be kind of like a sapphire color. So we went ahead and poured the blue in. I love the blue. It looks really great, does it not? Looking pretty good. Kind of like jumping around there, kind of get even distribution there. And then we'll get to the red. Red ruby. Mixing that up here. What a wonderful color. And we did include a few different drops, or a few more drops of that red ember in that. And again, that's a Tim Holtz red ember. Really great color there. And then we're also going to, of course, do this sunshine yellow, which is almost like an amber color. If I recall correctly, this is the same color combination that I used to make my honey when I made my realistic Winnie the Pooh honey tumbler. So if you're looking to make some realistic honey, sunshine yellow is the way to go. I'm going to apply a few more drops of that just so I can kind of make that a little bit darker. And then there they are. Looking pretty good. Very basic colors, very easy going. So here is all of our kind of molds laid out here. I have some excess, so we're going to go ahead and just kind of pour these in. I'm going to make a red, like little kind of bow button there. And again, it will make a return in the gold painting video. And we're going to move this mold forward. We have the blue epoxy here. We're going to pour that into some of these flowers. Now, they do have a different texture on these silicone molds, so they do leave a little bit of a kind of like a film or just kind of like a matte finish on these items, whereas the white molds have a more of a glossy finish, a lot clearer. So it's just depending on the type of mold you have and the medium that you're putting in it, you can get different results as far as the overall finish of those items. Looking pretty good. I do not believe that I'm going to use a whole lot of the leaves and the roses in the diorama, just to be very straightforward. But I am going to be making galleons and a few other things to incorporate in, and then the Felix Felicis, as well as a stack of gold coins. So I'm excited about that. I've been working on that here in the studio, and it's actually more challenging than I had anticipated to make a nice, evenly distributed stack of gold toppling coins for the diorama. Look how great that sunshine yellow looks. Poured into the leaf molds. I really will probably use these in the future on a tumbler or something like that. So just you'll probably see those return in the future. Now, as you can see here, we do have all of our epoxy burning through here, and we're going to let these set up overnight. Before we do so, I'm going to go ahead and hit this with a heat torch, so popping any kind of micro bubbles that kind of are brought to the surface. That's another reason that we're using regular set epoxy, so it gives ample time for all of those little bubbles to pop up to the surface and then pop. If you use a fast set, it really doesn't have time to do that. I had like a little eyelash in the green emerald there. Go ahead and get that out of there, and then we'll hit that with a torch one more time. And then here we are, and a little bit of a glamour shot of what these look like as they are fresh and poured in their molds. Look really great on camera here. Those colors are very vibrant. And of course, if my daughter asks for one of those little keychain trinkets, then of course I'm going to let her have one. Looking pretty good, you guys. So now we're going to go ahead and jump over and let's get these things demolded in the next day, in the next session in the studio. All right, so it's the next day, guys, and we're going to go ahead and jump into demolding these. We are going to go ahead and just kind of have fun with this process, and then I'm going to kind of give you an idea of what I'm thinking throughout the process. Now, my favorite mold or trinket size is actually the green emerald square, and I just really like it. Let's put these on a white base here, just so we can really see the colors as they pop. Again, they will be on a dirt base, so they'll be a little bit more dinged out, and they'll have a little bit of a darker background when they're laying in the dirt, kind of peeking through. This is one that me and my daughter had made with a snake skin inlaid. It's very cool. And then here is the emerald. Look how great this little thing looks. No bubbles whatsoever, crystal clear. Here is like the kind of crystal shape that I had. And I may cut these into different pieces depending on how much space I have. and bury them in the dirt. Here's this little oval. I like this one here. Looking pretty good. And then here is our ruby red crystal. I wish I had a actual ruby gem shape. I don't have any of those, and I'm saddened that I don't have any right now. But we're going to use what we have, and I can always supplement it and add one in later. Here's the buttons. We have a kind of a crown button there. We have a little bow. That's one of the leftover resin that we had. We have this cool button. Now that one's actually probably one of my favorites, and it'll take paint very well. And we have a little flower button there. I'm going to take these other ones out of the molds here. So these are the little roses. And we'll go ahead and pull these out here one at a time. As you can see, there's a very, very matte finish on the outside of those roses. It's not very glossy as you would see with the other ones. See, very matte surface. Is not as shiny as the other molds are. So depending on the mold that you have, depends on the finish that you get when you pull those out of the silicone molds. Very good. Now, a lot of these blue molds are actually chocolate molds, and you can get a lot of these from Michael's or Hobby Lobby. But if you really want something that's really nice quality for art making, I would highly recommend just going to Amazon and finding what you need. Although they sometimes aren't the best quality, they won't last forever, but you really do get a wide variety of different molds. Look how cool those leaves look. That's the sunshine yellow epoxy mold, epoxy mixture. And then, of course, we have the little leaf there as well. Pretty cool. And here's these little clay flowers or roses here that we had previously in the very beginning of this video. And it's looking pretty good. Here's a little showcase of what they look like before we do any kind of work to them. I really do think that the epoxy and the alcohol inks, little geodes, and the little gem trinkets look really good. And again, we're going to coat a lot of these in gold, and we're going to be using pure gold and antique gold, as you can saw the drop into the picture there, the little teaser. And we will be making those. We're going to use just a plate from the kitchen here, and we'll go ahead and apply these just to the plate. And this is where I'll collect all my trinkets, and what I choose to put on the diorama at the final detail layers will be just pulled from this plate and then placed on the diorama. My wife is wanting to go with a limited palette as far as trinkets and gold, and I'm thinking in my mind's eye that I'm going to make a big old pile of treasure, kind of like the Nifflers, just like nesting. And this is like the Niffler's hoard of golden trinkets and shiny things. So we'll see what happens. I can always just add things in and then remove them if she does not like the feel of it. Again, this is her piece of art, so in the long run, happy wife, happy life, right? So these little leaves are pretty cool. I really do like those. Again, those will probably make a return in some kind of art form in the future. I really like how those turned out. Just the color combination on those leaves looks really good. And then, of course, we have all these little golden pieces here. Again, as you can see, these actually are dinged out because when you apply that gold paint to the epoxy, it really dilutes it out, and it separates out the metallics in it, and it just becomes like a dark bronze almost. So just be aware that when you do that, you're not getting a pure gold. Now, as I spoke of earlier in the video, we're going to have some bonus material here. I really don't have any kind of like jewelry making information or playlists here on my YouTube channel. So I did go ahead and decide just to pop these pearls onto this video here as a bonus material. And what we're going to do is we're just going to use some easy-going fishing twine to create a pearl necklace that the Niffler is going to be holding. I specifically sculpted the Niffler so that he had that kind of like a marsupial pouch on. That way these pearl necklaces are up and coming out of that little Niffler pouch. And it makes it look like he has like is like stowing or stealing treasures or pearl necklaces or gold into that pocket from his surroundings, and it just ups the overall realism quite a bit. We're just going to kind of go with the flow, and we're just going to kind of create just a general pattern here. As of right now, I don't know if I'm going to use the entire pearl necklace in the diorama. I have also been thinking about maybe cutting like it along the way and possibly making it to where like he had broken the pearl necklace, and some of those pearls are kind of cascaded down onto the dirt base of the diorama. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, but you'll kind of see that when we do final details in the very last stages of the full-length content. So if you're watching this and you're wondering, wow, I want to see that diorama, I want to see what's going on in it, you can check that out in its full-length content there on my YouTube channel. And it is almost a 2-hour-long, full-on blown tutorial with a few of these kind of like little side clips and tutorials on the sides that you can sit back and enjoy. I just wanted to kind of keep that overall tutorial under 2 hours if we could, and then that way we kind of have also these other side fun videos to enjoy as well. This is actually an easy-going process here. A little bit of detail work here. I was leaning over my workstation and my back actually started hurting just by putting these little pearls together. We were using fishing twine, a 6-pound line to make this. So nothing is super extravagant or any kind of like actual like jewelry making like twine or thread or anything like that. We're just using fishing twine. Having to count how many of pearls I have between the different overall patterns, and then we have that large pearl in the very middle, surrounding by a few of those smaller pearls. Counting my pearls again here to make sure I get the overall count correct, and then we will go ahead and finish this up. Instead of tying knots on the ends, I do use some jewelry crimps, and I do use some pliers here in a moment, and I will crimp on the ends of them that little bronze little crimp. And what it does is it keeps all the pearls just from sliding off. All that's going to be buried away in epoxy anyways, so it really doesn't matter if I have a little stopper at the end of the wire. I don't have to put an actual clip on the end of it to make it a actual workable pearl necklace. We're just using this just to kind of get this on here and get the overall thing to where it won't slide off the ends of the actual wire itself. Go ahead and squeeze that there, and then that is all there is to it, you guys. You're touching. Oh, you're touching his stuff. You're touching his stuff.
Glows.
Again, pick up the pearls. You're touching his stuff. You're touching his stuff. You're touching his stuff. What are you doing touching my stuff? I love the little clips of the kids with me in the studio. It's absolutely awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one, guys.